Hey everybody, it's Gina here from Gina Makes It. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are talking about building the perfect journal page. I was able to narrow down the whole process to 3 basic steps. The first step, of course, is to pick a focus. Now, my focuses always tend to be photos. I'm always journaling about photos, but yours could be a word or a piece of art or a poem or really anything that you want to focus your whole entire journal page around. The second step is to gather all the things. And by all the things, I mean all of the pieces of paper, the ephemera, anything that you think that you're going to want to use on that page. Now, chances are is that you're not going to use 90% of the things, but I find it's very helpful to kind of take inventory of my craft room. It helps if I'm organized, and today I was organized. I recently did a reorganization / destash / cleaning of my craft room, so I have a pretty good idea of where everything is. So I was able to really kind of move around my craft room and pick out all of the things that I thought that I would want to use. Some of these things include neutral background pages, which is what this is right here. This is a neutral summer background page. I tend to like to do my journaling on top of those, or as a large part of my overall layout. It's just something that I tend to rely on versus some sort of a very bright moving piece of scrapbook paper. While I like those and I think they're really pretty, and sometimes I do add them to my pages, I find them difficult to work with because I find that I don't want to cover up the pattern because I love it so much. So it pushes me into a corner a little bit. Whereas these neutral backgrounds, they really offer a lot of emphasis on the theme or the idea without causing too many creative problems. So you could see, obviously I want this June area to be the highlight. So I'm trying to see how my layout's going to work around it. I also know that I want to use one of these journaling spots, these vintage hanky journaling spots that I have. And so I pulled them all out and I'm just trying to see, is this going to work with all the pieces together? I decide that yes, it is. At least I think so at this point. So I'm just going to gather up the ones that I want to use. So I'm going to cut out this red one, and I'm also going to gather some images of fairies. And so my photo is about a fairy house, a little fairy village that I have in my backyard, and I'm journaling about that. And so I pulled a fairy kit, Midsummer Magic, out from a manila folder that I had in my area where I keep my kits, and I'm just going to page through them and cut out any pictures that I think I want to highlight in this layout. I might use all of them, I might use none of them, but by gathering everything up together, I'm really simplifying the process because I'm not going to have to hunt all around my craft room. Now, while I'm kind of working on this process and working on the layout, I might think of extra things that I want to add. I think, oh wait, I know I just fussy cut a yellow butterfly and I want to pull that out. That's something that I do quite often, specific pieces that I know where they're at. But for the most part, all of my materials that I'm pretty sure I'm going to use are gathered all together. And I'm looking for color. So I'm trying to color coordinate with the pictures or with each other, all of the different elements. And I'm also looking for theme, and I'm looking for size. And so I tend to start with the larger pieces first, and that's when I move on to the smaller pieces. So step 3 is arrange the large items first and then do the embellishments and the smaller items second. And so that's exactly what I am doing here. I've decided to use these 3 items as the base of my project, and so I am going to work on arranging them in a way that is pleasing to my eye. I finished deciding where my three main large items were going to go, and now it's time for me to start embellishing. And so you can see that I drastically cut down the size of the picture based on the other elements, and I really like making that little rectangle a focal point, like a little column in a newspaper. And I had previously pulled out this little fairy that is putting out a candle with a little flower, and you can see I just pulled two additional pieces of ephemera, like two little embellishments that I originally did not pull when I was gathering all of my things together, but these were items that I thought of as I was kind of working on the layout and moving things around. And I thought, wouldn't it be cute to glue this yellow butterfly, I mentioned that earlier in the video, and have it be like a little flip. I just thought it was a really, really cute idea, as if it was coming off the page, and it also mimicked the butterfly on the teapot in the picture as well. So I really liked that. I also, next to that butterfly, had this little rose border that I thought would look nice and kind of complement the red in the vintage journaling hanky piece of paper. So I thought that I would add that there. So next I'm going to do my journaling. So I'm going to do that now, and then I'm going to finish up adding the rest of my minor embellishments. This signature is very old, and it is sort of on the thinner side, and so I just added a piece of scrap paper underneath it to give my pencil a little bit of stability. I'm going to glue my little border down here on the left-hand side, and I'm also going to try and use that leader of the butterflies piece of ephemera. You've probably seen me try and use it at least 6 or 7 different times by this point, and I continue to try and use it. And it's funny the way that I actually end up using it. It was a way that I didn't even think about until later. So I have this little butterfly dancing fairy piece that I think I'm going to add somewhere at the top. I don't like all of that blank space at the top of my journaling spot, and so I'm going to add this coffee dyed masking tape, but then I end up taking it off just based on a new direction that I do end up going. But I probably would never have gone to the direction that I did go if I didn't put that piece of tape there. So I'm actually glad that I did it, and it was very easy to get off because the masking tape isn't that sticky. So I'm going to do a little bit of sewing on the bottom of this butterfly piece of ephemera, but first I'm just going to glue down my journaling spot because I had yet to glue that down. I glued down the crease first, and then I did the rest of the page right now, and I'm looking on the back side to see what does it look like back here. How can I get rid of this extra piece of paper? And so first I just glue down as far to the edge as I possibly can, and then I decide to get a little magnetic cutting board that I have that is very nice for these sorts of small spaces, and I get really close to the edge of that vintage hanky, and I just cut on the right margin, and I also cut around that piece of masking tape at the top. I'm pretty sure I'm going to use that white piece of lace at the top of my hanky because I feel like it sort of screams vintage hanky. But before I do that, I thought, oh, I'm going to give this a fussy cut. I'm going to give this a try. I knew that it wasn't going to be exact and identical to the actual vintage hanky, but if I thought if I did some loose scallops, it would look close enough, and it really does. The bottom part was the one that was the hardest because it was on the opposite side of my scissors, and there was really no way for me to turn it around and do it the other way. But I just did it as loosely as possible, and like I said, this signature is so old that it just kind of started ripping, and so it worked with me to that extent. If you're wondering about this journal, this is a journal that I featured in my last video on Saturday, and it is a quick journal using an already vintage signature from a book that you probably tore apart, or something that I tore apart, and I just used it as a signature. And I have to say, I am really liking it. I'm filling this journal so fast. There's just something about this vintage book page that I just love working on. I love it so much. So you can see there I peeled off the masking tape, and I thought that I might tape this little sewn series of fairy butterflies to the top, but then I really like the way that that white vintage lace looks instead. And so what I do is I just glue the lace down there, and then I add the little vintage series of butterflies over my little teapot on the left-hand side. Once I finish doing that, I add two final embellishments. And the first one is this piece of coffee dyed ephemera that I found in my ephemera box that says My Happy Place. And I really like the way that that looked on top of that rose border. And then the final piece is I finally get to use the leader of the butterflies, but I fussy cut him out. And that was something that I did not think to do all those times that I was trying him. But the whole process led me to this point. And so I fussy cut him out and I add him as a little page topper to my journaling, and it ends up being the perfect little touch to finalize this page. So thank you for joining me on this journey through this journal page. I sort of summarized the basic points of building a journal page, but I can also go into the intricacies of adding ephemera and talking about composition and balance and layout if that's something you're interested in. If so, leave me a comment down below and I'll add that to the queue. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.